Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Champions video. Today we're going to take a look at a few more cards that were revealed for the upcoming Venom pack, so Agent Venom, which is Flash Thompson. Again, I'm more familiar with the Eddie Brock version of Venom, but this is the Flash Thompson version of Venom. We did a video on him not too long ago where Fantasy Flight initially revealed some of the cards. We actually have more cards from the deck now that we're going to take a look at. So a lot of these cards we're going to get to a little bit further into detail. A lot of these cards were also shown in the initial release from Fantasy Flight. So I think Run and Gun, Locked and Loaded, the Tendrils, Behind Enemy Lines, of course Venom himself. I think the Pistol, and the Multi-Gun were shown. I think Spider Sense, Project Rebirth, and Savage Attack are new. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at those. Some of them are kind of cropped, so you can't really see exactly what they do, like Savage Attack there. But we're going to move into some of the actual cards here, or a closer up view on some of them. So first up, we have Savage Attack. Don't know what kind of resource it generates or what the cost is, but it looks like it's an attack. Deal 5 damage. Deal 5 damage to probably an enemy. And then if you pay for this card using a certain resource, it gains, it's probably going to be either Overkill or Piercing. I'm guessing Overkill, but I'm not really sure. Because if it's a Savage Attack, I suppose it could be either, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be Overkill. So that is Savage Attack. Moving into the next card, we have Project Rebirth 2.0. This is a 1-cost support. Generates a physical resource if you discard it. It's an alter ego action. Exhaust Project Rebirth 2.0. Choose to either draw a card or heal 3 damage from Flash Thompson. Really versatile here because you're basically exhausting it and either getting a card, so getting an extra card, or healing 3. So you can flip into alter ego mode, exhaust Flash Thompson to heal some damage, and then exhaust Project Rebirth to heal even more damage. So basically, if you do flip back to alter ego mode, you can use this to get heal 3, use Flash Thompson's basically built-in recovery to recover, I forget exactly what his recovery was, but basically use it to double heal, or it's also very flexible, you could draw a card with it. So that's Project Rebirth 2.0. Moving into our next card. Next up, we have Spider Sense. It's a 2-cost upgrade. Generates a mental resource if you discard it. It's a superpower. And it's a hero interrupt. When the villain initiates an attack against you, draw a card. So could be particularly pretty good, especially if you know what's on top of your deck. If you have some way to basically like rearrange those cards in your deck, or somehow like look at the top card. This could be really good because you can basically like, okay, I know I have a really good card on top of my deck that's good for defending, so I'm going to defend. The villain initiates an attack. You're going to defend. You then draw a card. Potentially you draw like a defense interrupt or something like that. You can then go ahead and play that card. And also, even if you don't have a particularly good card on top that's going to help with something that triggering when you get attacked, it's an extra card that you get to draw anyway. So that is Spider Sense. We're going to move into our next card. So here we have a few cards where you get to a little bit further detail. So we have his obligation, there is his side scheme, and his Nemesis minion. I believe this Nemesis, you actually get multiple copies of it, and you basically have to fight off basically all of them. A lot of the other cards that are kind of like shown, like making an entrance and Jack Flag, and the Plasma Pistol on the top right. We'll get to Star-Lord as well, right below the pistol. We'll get to a little bit later in the video. We'll also, I believe, Scare Tactic is another card we'll be taking a look at. So moving into a closer look at some of those cards. First up is Scare Tactic. So it's a 1-cost event. It generates, it looks like a mental resource if you discard it. It's kind of gray there, but yeah, mental resource. And it's a hero action. Deal 3 damage to a confused enemy. So if the enemy is confused, you pay 1 resource to deal 3 damage to them. Could be pretty good. Depending on if you have like a lot of cards that cause confusion, this could be potentially a good way to get a good amount of damage on them, providing that you have ways to confuse your enemies. So that is Scare Tactic. Into the next card, we have the Plasma Pistol. The 2-cost upgrade. It generates an energy resource if you discard it. Its tech and the weapon, it looks like it's restricted, so max 2 per player. Let's say uses 3 charge counters, and his hero action, exhaust the Plasma Pistol, and remove 1 charge counter from it to deal, looks like deal 1 damage to an enemy. So basically it comes in with 3 uses. You exhaust it to remove a counter and ping something for 1 damage. Could be really good against, like Ultron drones and things like that. Things that you can just basically that only have 1 hit point or 1 health. You basically exhaust it to ping a damage off, or it's just extra damage you can ping onto the villain as well. So that is the plasma pistol. Moving into our next card, we have Jack Flag. It's a 4-cost ally. Generates an energy resource if you discard it. He's also a guardian. 2 thwart, 1 attack with 1 consequential damage each. Comes in with 3 health. And as a response, after he thwarts, place 1 ammo counter on him. So obviously his thwart is going to be higher, so you're probably going to be using that more often than attack. And his hero action, exhaust Jack Flag. Remove 1 ammo counter from him to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So basically, you can basically thwart, and then when you do attack with him, you can remove ammo. You can exhaust him to remove ammo counters to deal 2 damage. So basically, it's a way to get around his attack. So his attack, he's going to take 1 consequential damage, only has 3 health, but when he thwarts, he gets an ammo counter. And then you can exhaust him to get rid of the ammo counter to deal 2 damage. So it's actually going to be, basically, his attack is only 1. Using the ammo counter gets you 2 damage from him. So that is Jack Flag. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Making an Entrance. It's a 1-cost event. Generates a physical resource if you discard it. It's a skill. And as a hero interrupt, when your hero makes a basic thwart, it gets +2 for that thwart. After that thwart ends, if your hero removed all threat from a scheme, that way heal 2 damage from your hero. So basically, you play it, you thwart for whatever your thwart value is. You get +2 to that, and then basically, if you removed all the threat from a scheme, like a main scheme, side scheme, whatever, if you remove all the threat, you get to heal 2 damage. So basically, gets you 2 additional thwart plus the potential to heal damage if you clear off a scheme. So that is pretty good. That's Making an Entrance. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Star-Lord. So this is the allied version of Star-Lord. They're doing all the Guardians. So I think we have allied versions of all the Guardians now, or all the main Guardians that have actual decks. But 2 cost, generates a mental resource if you discard it. He's a Guardian. Comes in with 2 thwart with 1 consequential damage and 2 attack with 1 consequential damage. 3 hit points. Again, he's a Guardian. His attacks gain ranged, so he doesn't trigger retaliate. So basically, that doesn't trigger retaliate. Doesn't trigger against him. And it's a force response after he enters play under your control. Deal yourself 1 face down encounter card. So just like the Star-Lord deck, he's going to be giving you face down encounter cards. So that could potentially add up and be kind of dangerous. I lost games where Star-Lord had, all the face down encounter cards that he ended up getting were like his, I got Shadows of the Past in one of them. The other one was his Obligation. So depending on what you get with Star-Lord, it could be bad. Hopefully you get an encounter card that doesn't do a whole lot of damage to you. But I like that he has a 2 thwart, 2 attack. The attacks have ranged, and then it comes in with 3 health. Again, only downside, you do get that encounter card when you play him. So that is the allied version of Star-Lord. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Crew Quarters, Shake It Off, Welcome Aboard, and Fusillade. We'll get to a little bit those next. I think these are the 4 cards that you get for the other aspects. So it looks like Venom is a Justice deck. So that is we have Crew Quarters as our basic, Shake It Off for protection, Welcome Aboard for leadership, and Fusillade, or however you pronounce it, for aggression. But into our next card here. So this is Crew Quarters. 1 cost support. It's a location. Generates a mental resource when you discard it. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. And as an alter ego action, exhaust Crew Quarters to heal 1 damage from an alter ego. So basically, doesn't heal heroes, but heals your alter ego side. So it could add up. So basically, if each player has a Crew Quarters, they can basically exhaust it to heal themselves. That can be pretty good. Or it's 1 extra damage that you get to heal. Like we looked at the Project Rebirth. So if you have Crew Quarters in play with Project Rebirth, and then you basically exhaust Flash Thompson to heal, you exhaust Project Rebirth to heal, and you can exhaust this to heal. You can heal quite a bit of damage with these cards. So that is Crew Quarters. Into our next card here, we have Shake It Off. It's a 1 cost event. Generates a physical resource if you discard it. It's a skill. And as a hero response, after a guardian character takes any amount of damage from an attack, give that character a tough status card. So basically, your character gets attacked. You pay the 1 resource to play Shake It Off. you then get a tough status card for the next attack against you, which basically means the attack doesn't really do anything because it just gets rid of the tough status. So that's pretty good, especially if it's only if you're getting like pinged like 1 damage. Like 1 damage to get a tough status is probably pretty good. So that is Shake It Off. We're going to move into the next card here. Next up, we have Welcome Aboard. 0 cost event. Looks like it generates an energy resource. I can't really tell, but it looks like I can see the yellow outline of what an energy resource would be. Play only if your identity has the Guardian trait, max 1 per round. Hero action, reduce the resource cost of the next ally played this phase by 2. So you can get out some pretty expensive allies with this with a 2-point reduction. So that's pretty much speaks for itself. It's pretty good. So that's Welcome Aboard. Into our next card. We have, again, Fusillade? Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, 2 cost event. It's an attack. It generates, I'm guessing it's a mental resource because it's got the little blue border on it. But it's hero action, exhaust a weapon upgrade you control, deal 5 damage to an enemy. It's pretty good, especially if you have, I can see this going into a Rocket deck because Rocket has a lot of weapons that have, the ammo counters on them. Let's say you've exhausted all the ammo counters off of it. The card is then essentially not really usable anymore as far as, exhausting it, removing a counter, and doing something. But this just lets you exhaust a weapon and then deal 5. So let's say you have, the hand cannon on Rocket. You exhaust it to do whatever it does later in the game. When there's no more counters on it, you can use this card to exhaust it to deal 5. So this is a really good card. This might end up going into my Quicksilver deck. As I have a Quicksilver Aggression deck, it uses one of the weapons from the Thor deck, like the axe, because you can basically pay a physical resource to have it do damage. So basically, with this, I can basically just exhaust that, not pay the physical resource to do the 2, instead just deal 5 with this. So this might end up going into my Quicksilver deck. We'll have to see, though. But that is Fusillade. We're going to move into our next card. Alright, next up, or finally, we have our Obligation, Minion, and our Side Scheme. I think we see the Minion already and the Side Scheme, but the Obligation is new. So this is Struggle for Control. It's his Flash Thompson's Obligation. Give to the Flash Thompson player. You may flip to Alter Ego form and then choose. Exhaust Flash Thompson and take 2 damage. Discard this Obligation. Or put 1 set-aside copy of Enraged Symbiote into play engaged with the first player. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. Discard this Obligation. I think this is a first for Marvel Champions. It is usually this is the only obligation that I can think of where it does not get removed from the game if you do the first option. Usually, it's exhaust your character and then basically remove the obligation from the game. The other option is usually do whatever the option is and then discard it. Both of these are discard options, so you may end up seeing this obligation more than once depending on what option you choose. Normally, if you choose the first option in any other obligation, it gets removed and you don't see it again for the rest of the game. If you discard it, you have potential to see it again. But this either option is discarding. So you may run into the obligation multiple times depending on how many times the villain deck gets shuffled up. Or gets reshuffled, I should say. And then next up we have the Enraged Symbiote. It's a one scheme, 2 attack minion with 2 health. It's a symbiote. Has guard and patrol, and while this minion is engaged with you, you cannot thwart the main scheme. And it's Venom's Nemesis minion. If it boosts into play, it gets put into play engaged with you. There was one, I think it's a side scheme here. It's kind of sideways, but it's Kilthanar Frenzy. I've talked about this card before, but it looks like it comes in with 2 threat per player. The side scheme. And threat cannot be removed from this scheme while a symbiote enemy is in play, and it comes in with an accelerate, or with not an acceleration, but a additional encounter card being dealt out. So as long as you're engaged with a symbiote, you cannot remove threat from it. It's going to give you an additional encounter card as long as it's in play. And I believe there are, from what I remember, there are no treacheries in the Nemesis deck for Venom. I think it's just the side scheme and 5 enraged, or looks like maybe 4 enraged symbiotes. I believe there's multiple copies of this minion in his Nemesis set. So basically, if it gets shuffled into your deck, so if you basically come up with Shadows of the Past, these symbiotes will get shuffled in. The side scheme will come into play, and then when they come out, if they come out as part of a boost, they engage with the player. They can also come out as just a minion as part of like the end, like an encounter card as well. So they don't have a lot of health, but they do have both guard and patrols, which mean patrol you cannot thwart the main scheme. Guard means you have to attack it before you can attack anything else. And then the scheme basically says you can't remove threat as long as there's symbiotes in play. So that is it for all the new Venom cards. I believe Venom's supposed to be coming out in a couple weeks if they're sticking with the kind of middle of the month schedule now. Since Star-Lord and Gamora came out, they've kind of pushed releases back about a week. It used to be first week of the month, and now I think it's the second week of the month. So it might be next week. It's probably gonna be the week after because I think when Drax came out, it was on like the 18th. So I imagine it's gonna be closer to the middle of the month. But that is it for this video. Some more Venom cards here to take a look at. But again, that's gonna do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again with more videos in the future. Again, I want to thank you for watching and take care. Have a good one.